Welcome back to the YouTube channel for the New England Player. I am your host and founder, Matthew Andrews. So in this video, we are delighted to bring you another interview here on the New England Players YouTube channel. And in this video, we sit down and have a wonderful conversation with Matt Hart. Matt is a talented golf course and event photographer whose work has been seen in some of the industry's most revered and artistic outlets, including the Golfer's Journal and Random Golf Club. And this year, he was also responsible for capturing some incredible imagery from some of the key events here in the New England region, including the Northeast Amateur at Wannamoisett and the Massachusetts Amateur held this year at Winchester Country Club. So in this video, we catch up with him about those projects and what else he has in store for the year ahead, the strategies and equipment he uses to capture his wonderful images, and his journey to becoming one of the game's highly respected photographers. So as always, we hope you enjoyed this conversation, and as always, please be sure to give this video a like, comment below on what you think, and also please be sure to subscribe to the channel to make sure that you don't miss out on any of our content like this coming forward from here. All right, thank you very much, and let's get into the conversation with Matt. All right, Matt. Well, welcome to the New England Players YouTube channel. It's a real pleasure to have you here, and I'm excited to talk golf course photography with you. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. So for people that might not be familiar with who you are and what your work is, you're certainly one of the most prolific golf course photographers out there today. You know, you certainly do a lot of work in the New England region. I'd love to talk with you about some of the other projects that you have with folks like maybe the Golfer's Journal and some of the other ones as well. But yeah, just maybe for an introduction to yourself and your work, where are you from originally, and what was your journey ultimately to becoming a golf course photographer?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in Arlington, Mass. So just outside of Boston. I've always kind of been around the New England area myself. I went to school at Roger Williams for college, so in Rhode Island. And I started golfing when I was about 15. So I was like a sophomore in high school at the time, and I played competitive golf throughout high school, some competitive golf throughout college, and then like everyone else, I started working a 9 to 5. And with that 9 to 5 came obviously long days in the office, less time on the golf course, um, and I found that my game was getting worse, and I was also not enjoying the game as much, and something wasn't right. I needed to find something that kind of brought me back to loving the game of golf. And I guess it wasn't a direct correlation between how my photography started, but it's definitely something that kickstarted what this has all become. So I ended up buying a camera when I was in college. I did some traveling when I was studying abroad. Um, all of that with a camera in hand, which led me to just enjoy shooting photos. And then, at some point a couple years ago, it kind of clicked that if I bring my camera out on the golf course, I could probably get some cool stuff. Um, so that's kind of a I'd say a recap of how I've grown up in the area and how the photography started. And ever since then, it's just like whenever I head to a course, whenever I've got my bag, I've also got my camera on the other shoulder. Usually it's, Sunday bag on one shoulder, camera on the other shoulder. And I've really just enjoyed trying to capture those moments on a golf course that every golfer knows, that early sunrise, that late sunset, and just the beauty of what the game is, because, as Jeff Marsh says, golf is art. So it's brought back my love of the game and just a new perspective on, what it means to be out on the golf course.
Excellent. Very good. Very good. So you're New England based, and certainly we'll talk about some of the work that you've been doing throughout the region here, and even some of the stuff that you've been doing this year with some of the key competitions as well throughout the region. But in addition to the photography work that you've done here in the New England region, what are some of the projects that you've had over the years that have really kind of built up your portfolio as far as, photographing golf courses at the national level? And also, what are some of the publications and businesses that you've managed to collaborate with over the years as well?
Yeah, so I'll start with just like companies that have helped me jumpstart. I can't say I'd be where I am without Winchester Country Club. So this is a Winchester Country Club is 10 minutes from my house. It's one of the top country clubs in the state in the Northeast. And I started caddying there again when I started the game of golf, so around the age of 15. Um, and then through caddying there, I worked outside operations there. And so when I was lucky enough to be able to bring a camera out on the course, they opened their doors to me. So that's one place that's always special and that like to call home. That just allowed me to start, photographing courses at all times of the day. And then as far as companies, once I started to get into golf photography, the main one that you look at is Golfers Journal. They have some of the highest quality work. Their photographers are great. And how this whole thing kind of kickstarted was an email that I sent to Golfers Journal that I got a response back from. It was something where I said, "Hey, I'm in the Boston area. I shoot golf photography, and if you'd ever be up for doing some sort of collaboration, let me know." Um, 2 weeks later, I was on a plane to Cabot, Nova Scotia, to shoot their 4th of July like experience there, which was 24 members, 4 days, Cabot Links, Cabot Cliffs, and it was like 36 holes a day. It was just go, go, go. But it was a dream experience. So I was lucky enough to work with them early on. And that's kind of been a name that's held high on my resume. And then from there, uh, last year throughout 2025, I worked a bunch with Random Golf Club. They were slowly changing, what the company gave as far as events and experiences. So they started offering these premium events in which they call classics and majors, as well as doing what many people know them for is their Mad Hole Scramble, which is 100 people playing at the same time in one big group. So I guess I've was lucky enough to actually hop in a van and drive along the West Coast and do photography for them for, the better part of like 6 to 8 weeks when it was all said and done. So those two companies were really great. And then of course the local company Mass Golf has been awesome. So I've been working with them. They have their publication, the Massachusetts Golfer, that I've been lucky enough to be featured in. Stay tuned for that because more volumes are coming. I've got more work in there, and they're really just at the beginning of what that publication can be. So I'm super excited to be in their publication and do a lot of work at their events. I've also been in Hiatus Golf. That's a publication out of Montreal. They just put out their second issue. So again, they're also just getting started. Um, I've been in some Golf Digest stuff just with top courses. I've shot for Sacanesset. I've shot for Winchester. I've shot for courses that are featured in their top 100 lists. Top 100 in Massachusetts, top 100 private. Um, so that's pretty much the extent of it at this point as far as publications go. But always looking, always reaching out. Love to see my work in print. Super cool.
Excellent. No, that's fantastic. And I mean, I think about everything that you mentioned, Golfers Journal, the Mass Golf publication is always such a pleasure to get in the mail, on that, I think quarterly basis, I think or so. And then, yeah, Random Golf Club, you mentioned all these names and it's just like, yeah, the level of work that all those places have produced has always been so good. And yeah, your entries to their stuff has just been awesome to see. Um, and yeah, kind of thinking about like the early days when you started getting into this and you really kind of wanted to make it your profession. You mentioned the Golfers Journal kind of early on in that sort of list of places that you've been featured. Was that kind of your big break, or was there any? Do you remember like if there was any one particular moment that really solidified this as the career path for you?
I think it's proven to be the case that the Golfers Journal is kind of the top of the line. I think looking back on it, and in that moment, I was kind of pinching myself at the chance to work with them and say that they wanted my work in their pieces. So that was the special one for me. Yeah.
Excellent. No, very good. Yeah, I think for anyone probably listening to this conversation, they're probably quite familiar with the Golfer's Journal and the high bar that I think they set for photography. So I think your work is just incredible that you've been able to produce for them. It's just it's always great to see. So excellent, excellent, very good. Yeah, so I think one of the things I'd love to talk to you about is just the year that you've had so far, because here in New England, photographing not only courses but also events, because I think you've been able to actually capture some pretty incredible imagery of some of the big events here in the New England region. And so the ones maybe to talk about that come to mind, at least initially, were the Northeast Amateur at Wannamoisett, and then also the Mass Amateur, which again sounds like it was at a very special place for you, Winchester Country Club. So when you look at like those two events, and when you think about like the essence of a competition and what you're looking to show people as far as the nature of it or the emotions of it, and also kind of thinking about like even I think about like even just as a spectator about like trying to navigate through a golf course and through a competition to make sure that maybe you're just even witnessing some of the maybe the big moments of like the final leaders, or maybe something up ahead, maybe trying to catch a hole in one, or someone chipping in for eagle on a par four or something like that. But if you think about like when you're on site at a tournament that has the gravity of say the Mass Am or the Northeast Amateur, how do you like think about how you navigate the tournament landscape and try to make sure that you're capturing the right moments or some of the key moments that you feel like will show what the day was particularly like?
Yeah, I think it's a good question because it's not set in stone for every tournament. Every tournament's different. Um, like you said, it's hard to get that moment if there is a moment. It's easier, if it's match play and you're just following two guys, but if it's like a stroke play event, your chances are you're not going to be at the exact perfect spot at that exact moment. So it's a little bit of a mental battle to just accept that you're not going to get everything. Um, so it's one of the times in which I just need to tell myself that wherever I am, I need to get that like as best I can. Um, so there's like stages. I find myself in different stages throughout the day. Um, so I guess it's kind of best. Let's just start at Wannamoisett, and I think like just taking you through a day there would be a good kind of explanation of where my mindset is. Um, so like I like getting to the course first thing in the morning. Like that's the time when no one else is there. You can take beauty shots of the course. Sunrise on a golf course is like next to nothing as far as like the best feeling. You have like the mowers going out, the freshly cut grass, the sun's rising, the birds are chirping. Like I don't side note, but I don't think enough people see their golf course in like during sunrise, and I think they should. Um, it's so peaceful. So I'll start there with some course shots, and then around 7 or 8 o'clock, usually that's when the tournament starts. So you kind of loop back to the clubhouse, and I find myself early in the morning taking a lot of photos of just the golfers playing golf. And I find that within a couple hours of taking photos of just people hitting a golf ball, I start to get very tired of taking that same like down the line behind the player shot that basically anyone can take. Like you're just making sure the player's in focus, you're trying to frame the hole, and like you snap away. So Wannamoisett was a great example of like I'm now getting bored with shooting a player. What else is there to focus on, and how do I tell the story of what's going on today? What are the little things that people would see and be like, "Oh, that's really cool that that specific place has that," or "Oh, check out the people watching," or "How many people are watching." So I start to turn my focus after like a couple hours of shooting the golf into like what's the scene and how do we set the stage. So there's a lot of details, whether it's the clubhouse, if they have super interesting things, if it's, like if it's someone wearing a cool outfit, if it's a little kid that's there, like that's awesome because that's telling you that like everyone's out there watching. If I can get a shot of like a little kid with a grandparent or something, it's like that tells you right then and there what type of event it is. And Water Moistet is awesome because, like everyone goes out there. You got kids, you got players themselves, you've got dads, moms, sisters, uncles, grandparents, like everyone's there. So that's a lot of fun to, you know, start to tell the story of what's going on there because it is more than just the golf. And then it kind of works its way in like I guess hourly sections as far as like, all right, let's do some more player shots, action shots. All right, let's shoot some people. Let's shoot some more player shots. Let's shoot some course shots. Like it's a fluctuating thing so that I don't get stagnant and I guess bored with the photos I'm taking. I always want to be trying to get a creative shot that other people aren't seeing. And that's kind of my mindset with even course photography. If I can shoot your course that you've walked 100 times in a way that you've never seen it, but that is like beautiful, like that's my goal. Um, and so, you know, another example of like things I'm thinking about is, at Wannamoisett, their first tee is right next to the lunch deck. And after day one, I realized that at 11:30 to 1:30, all the members are sitting there for lunch. And like if you want to get the atmosphere, you then plant yourself just in that area, walk around, and you're going to get some super interesting shots of people interacting with players. And it's also going to give the feeling of like the crowded tournament that it is. People come out and watch it. It's not just, the individual golfers out on the golf course. So that was in the back of my head then every day shooting that tournament where it's like, all right, around 11:30, let's head to the clubhouse and first tee because like that's when you're going to get the shots of people and that will tell the story of the tournament. So it's these phases of taking shots of the players, taking shots of the people, taking shots of the course, and just trying to always have that creative mindset going into your photos instead of just taking players of or just taking shots of a player. And I found that like if you can get a short par three, so like the third hole at Wannamoisett, it's like a really nice short par three. That's where you're going to get reactions from players because they want to hit a shot close to the pin, and you know probably I mean, at that level, a lot of them are doing it, but if they don't do it, they're going to be pretty disappointed. So it's just, trying to pick where you're going to get reactions from people is another part of it. And I found that like a good short par three, good short par four, something where there's a lot like invested on the line as far as that score for the hole. That's a fun one to switch lenses and shoot a player face on and try to get some sort of reaction from them. So yeah, it's all stages and feeling it out and just making sure you're not getting bored with what you're doing. Sometimes you need a half-hour break to just kind of reset, not look through the camera and pick a new topic to shoot.
Awesome. No, that's really interesting insights because I go to plenty of tournaments myself, not only here in New England, but also I've been to a couple different major championships, certainly some PGA Tour events, and I think even just as a spectator trying to navigate around and just like see what moments you can even just witness and just capture on your cell phone. I feel like sometimes like even that is something that I don't know if like stresses me out is the right word, but it's like always something that I'm like trying to do is just like see like where can I be like on the grounds to just even just see something that would be incredible just to tell a story. So it was really interesting to hear you talk about like from the photographer lens of really like trying to tell the story for not only people that were there but also people that weren't there.
Right.
Those are just really cool insights. So
I think
awesome,
that's kind
awesome.
of my background through like working with these companies that are on social media
Mm,
is like trying to sell those events. So like when I go to Golfers Journal or when I go with Random Golf Club, like I feel like a lot of my goal is to obviously recap it for the people there, like get really good shots that they will remember, but also, make people want to come out to their next event. So that's kind of always in like the back of my mind is like I need to tell the story and show other people who aren't here what this looks like.
excellent. Oh, very good, very good. Yeah, so you mentioned a couple things about you mentioned like there's some similarities in showing the competition as well as the golf course. I was curious maybe if we zoom in on like maybe one part of golf course photography, which, as I'm starting to get into this sort of lens myself of trying to show people like what a course is like, kind of more from, I would say, at least at this moment for me, the player's lens. Trying to like really show people maybe like the essence of a feature. And I would say like maybe for us, maybe we can zoom in on just trying to show people like what a green is truly like. Because I think if you haven't like actually hit a putt on a green, it can be kind of difficult to know like maybe truly what it's like. And maybe this also for us leads into maybe a discussion of like some of the equipment that you might use out on the golf course as well to kind of show the true essence of it. But when you're looking at trying to capture like the essence of a course, I guess maybe yeah, maybe we can look into like what is like the type of equipment that you're typically uses like that you're using, and like maybe if you're trying to capture like one part of the course versus another, what lenses you might use. And then if like you were to zoom in on maybe like trying to capture the essence of a green from a photograph, like what is that process typically like, and how do you go about that?
Yeah, it can be super hard. So the process for me is I have my drone, which is right now a DJI Mini 3. I have a Sony A7 IV camera, and with that camera, I use a 24 to 70 lens and a 70 to 200 lens. So basically, one of the big lens that zooms in and one of the wide lenses that kind of captures everything. And then I recently bought a Fuji X-T5, and that has a lens that is at 35 millimeters, so that is a wider lens. And so with those three cameras, I feel like I can kind of cover everything. The zoom lenses help cover a range of different uh, focal points. But the drone is, I think, for me, like one of the biggest parts of capturing a golf course. Even if you can just put it 10 feet in the air, it's crazy what that difference is from ground level. Like you can start to see so many contours, you can start to see the outlines of bunkers. It brings to life the course in a way that you wouldn't see it as someone just playing. So the drone to me is super important for capturing the course, and then I find myself always looking for like high points, just to get a better view of what's going on. It's super challenging to be on a pretty flat property with no real high points and just a camera, um, just because you can't really tell what's going on if everything is on the same plane. It all kind of looks one dimensional. So it's very it's very challenging to shoot some courses just because of the way they're laid out. That doesn't mean it's a bad course. That doesn't mean it's a good course. It's just harder to shoot some courses than other courses. Um, so you know that's some of the research that I do before showing up, is to try to understand the best spots to go on the course. And I think, let's see, relating back to like where my focus is, I've found that I struggle with shooting all 18 holes of a golf course during a day. So I will try to limit it to, I'd say, 4 to 5 holes, and really nail those 4 to 5 holes. So I might pick, a stretch of holes in the back nine or the front nine that I've seen and that I'm interested in. Maybe it has their feature hole in it, but sticking to that hole. And then when I have my cameras, I'm in a golf cart typically, so I can zip around from here to there. But it's just so difficult capturing everything. So focusing on a couple holes is definitely my strategy. And then as far as greens go, greens I think are probably the toughest to photograph, especially if you're trying to show contouring, because like you said, you have to be on a green hitting putts to really understand it. And I feel like even if you can see a slope in a photograph, you don't know how fast that green is. You don't know how much that ball rolls out. So there's still a lot of questions once you see a photograph of a green, even if it's a really good photograph, as far as how it plays. Um, but I'd say the most important thing is trying to use light, because light shows contour. So like if you get shadows on a high point casting down over a low point, you can understand that when you see a picture of the hole in the sun. When it's cloudy, everything kind of gets diluted. So for me, if my assignment is to, photograph a green, I'm going to go either super early in the morning, first light, super late at night, last light. And I'm going to try to get those really long shadows that start to show the contours of that green. And I'm typically shooting it again from my drone just to get a higher vantage point, of what's going on. But it's probably, one of the harder things to photograph is a green, especially if it's, like a Donald Ross green that's super subtle up here. It's just a difficult task. And sometimes that hole is in a shadow in morning light and late night, and you just got to accept that you can't really get it. It's hit or miss. So it's tough. It's a good question, but it's a very tough one to answer.
Yeah, no, I agree because I think even just going back to the Northeast Amateur this year, it was actually the first time I'd ever seen Wannamoisett, and I didn't really quite grasp like the scale of some of the greens at that place. And so when I was like kind of walking around and I ended up writing like a like an overview of the course, and I felt that I really couldn't write about the greens because I wasn't able to like when because like I think one of the things that's really quite interesting about the amateur events is like you really truly get to walk the course. It like there's no ropes. You certainly can't walk on the greens, but you can get I think as close as you could otherwise, and really experience the course in a way that you uh, would otherwise not had you not been able to play it. But it's one of those things where it's like I really felt like I couldn't talk about the greens at Wannamoisett because I could show like a general image of them and maybe as best I could capture some of the slopes, but it's just they're so big and they appear maybe flat at the start, but they're certainly not. And so, but it's like yeah, I totally see where you're coming from. Where it's like a place like that, certainly, I think if you're not like putting on them, it could be really tough to describe. Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to play the course. You
Exactly.
can't,
Exactly. Yeah.
photography only goes so far.
Yeah, exactly right. Oh, very good. Yeah, so actually, I think one of the things I'd like to talk about just real quick with you, you mentioned, of course, how special the Winchester Country Club has been for you in this whole journey, and your golf, even just your general golf journey. But you've posted some really interesting photos of the renovation work that they're starting to do there following the Mass Am. So yeah, you've been able to show some really cool stuff about how they're laying like the new grasses on the greens and things of that nature. What has it been like to kind of experience like a course such as Winchester with the history and the scale of it, kind of now going through this renovation process?
Yeah, super interesting. I was lucky enough to get on board with them, and me and a colleague, Cody O'Laughlin, he's another New England videographer, photographer. He shoots golf stuff as well, but we're working as a team to kind of, you know, try to document everything that's going on throughout this restoration process at Winchester because it is such a big event in their history. And yeah, it's been super, super interesting so far to just be on site and see the way things are done. Um, in talking with the greenskeeper there, Blaine Doherty, like if you just ask him one question about, a green surface, you'll get 10 minutes of just a rundown of exactly how everything works. So we are working on documenting everything through photography and also through like monthly recaps. And so I'd urge everyone to follow along that process either through my Instagram or Winchester's Instagram. Because we're going to be doing monthly videos on, you know, recapping what went on that month. And those will be super insightful for everyone else to see what goes into that. But yeah, for these last 2 days, they started the work on Tuesday, and there's currently no grass on the 16th green. They just went in and took it all out the first 2 days. So those are the photos you're referencing is the 16th green without any grass, but it's a fast moving project and it's super interesting. And I think there's going to be a lot of really cool content to come, both on their page, on my page, on Cody's page, recapping everything that's going on and giving you some really cool insight as to what goes on in that process. And I guess just as an overview, like one of the coolest things for me is just seeing the historical photos that they have of the course. They're trying to bring back some of these original Ross greens and Ross bunker shapes. So seeing the way that they have these historic photos, and how they're going about taking those photos, taking like the modern day game and trying to blend the two so that the course is back to its original design with, the modern bunkers and the modern green that account for our green speeds nowadays. And then like the third factor is, you have Andrew Green putting his twist on things. So he did the restoration at Wannamoisett, and so super excited to see how he can, give his insight as to what he thinks certain certain holes should play. It's a very interesting project, and I'm excited to share it moving forward.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be awesome to see how that progresses. And yeah, Andrew Green, as you mentioned, did Wannamoisett. I think he's done a number of courses that are. He definitely seems like he knows what he's doing with raw stuff. Like he did Oak Hill, I think before the PGA a couple years back, and then I think he also did Interlaken out in Minnesota as well. Which again, those two are certainly some of Ross's best in different parts of the country. So it's yeah, it's going to be very interesting and pretty neat, I think, to see Andrew's final result at Winchester. So it's awesome to have you there and be able to kind of show us how it goes. That's a real treat for, I think, a lot of us architecture nerds, certainly. Yeah.
Super
So that's
excited, yeah.
yeah, excellent, excellent. Well, this has been awesome, Matt. So I think a couple closing topics here. As far as like again, you've had the privilege, I think, of being able to see and photograph and experience a lot of the things that golf has to offer in the nation. If you think about like some of the ways that maybe New England golf is special compared to some of the other parts of the nation, and what how people just get so into it here in the New England region, and also maybe like some of your favorite courses in the New England region that have left the biggest impression on you. Yeah, I would say like as far as like some of the courses that you love the most, and the ones that I think have had the biggest impression on you here in New England. What would you say some of those are? And then yeah, what would you say is something that makes New England golf so special and why people get so into it up here?
Yeah, so here in New England, I think it's such a concentrated time period when we have this window to golf these fantastic courses that it's just uncomparable to other parts of the country as far as like enthusiasm for getting out there and enjoying a nice summer day. Out in LA every day is 70 and sunny and it's beautiful. But they're not dying to get to the golf course because it's a perfect day. Here it's like, my buddies are gonna send an out of office email the night before because it's gonna be 70 and sunny that next day. So it's just there's an enthusiasm behind it, and everyone goes through that long winter, putting away their clubs and waiting to get out on the course. That first 50-degree spring day hits, and people are wearing shorts and short sleeves, and they're out there on the golf course. So there's a passion and just an energy when golf season hits, and that's what makes New England golf so special. And there are some really really awesome courses. There's a lot of really top tier private courses in New England, but there's a lot of really good public courses. So like Marion Golf Club is one of my favorites. It's a George Thomas design. George Thomas, went on to design LACC and a bunch of other courses. Like I've I've been drawn to really interesting architecture after I've traveled around the country, and we have a lot of that at affordable prices. So Met Links, Marion, George Wright, there are a ton of public courses that are really super interesting and affordable to us. And so those are the courses that kind of stick with me. Obviously, like I've been lucky enough to be at Winchester and play Winchester several times. That's a bit of an exclusion because it's hard to get on. The International New Pines course or the Core in Crenshaw, that's again private, but it is such a fun place to play. And I've been lucky enough to work with them and document that course as it was growing in. So that's another one that kind of sticks with me. Just the way they're using land there, it's super fascinating. It reminds me of North Carolina and the Sandhills, where there's undulations and your ball is rolling a lot more on the ground than it is flying in the air. And so that's a pretty special place. But yeah, there's some really great public options at affordable prices, and they should not be skipped.
Yeah, no, excellent summary, Matt. I think it's one of those things that it's like the season does feel fleeting at times, but it's certainly, I think, for me, and it sounds like you, and for so many of us, that are into the game here, it's like when you finally get to set foot on the course that first day, like whether it's the snow is finally maybe melted in late March, and even though it's like maybe still in the 40s and maybe even raining, it's just the excitement of being able to get out there, I think, is one of the things. I totally agree. It's just it's the fact that it is like somewhat fleeting, but it's like when you finally get it back, it's just the best feeling in the world. And then yeah, certainly being able to experience, I think, like not only just the weather, but just like the way that the region changes through the seasons, like being
Yeah.
able to almost see like the land come alive in the spring and summer, and then see it change in the fall, and playing in places like New Hampshire, Maine, or Vermont. Yeah, it's yeah, I think we're quite blessed to be able to experience our region through the game of golf here.
You
Yeah.
suffer through the winter, but you get rewarded in the spring, summer, fall. And it's almost like it's funny. There's almost like several first rounds of golf throughout a year. There's like the actual first round when the snow melts, and then at some point in the spring, your course is gonna get in really good shape. And it's like, all right, here's my first round on like the course with the greens rolling what they should be. And then there's like the perfect summer day first round, where it's like, all right, here's my first round. Like everything feels so good. And then you get the first fall round, or it's like the air is crisp and the leaves are starting to turn. It's fun to experience it throughout the seasons, and there's excitement, all the way throughout, which is fun.
Excellent. Excellent. Very good. Awesome summary, Matt. Excellent. All right. Well, I think that was kind of like the last main formal thing I had for you. So I'd love to close with, like as far as like maybe the next couple months go. I mean, obviously you're doing this incredible documentation project regarding, the revamp at Winchester. But yeah, maybe just what are some of the other projects that you have going for maybe the remainder of the year? And also, of course, how can people get in touch with you for your photography services?
Yeah. So the rest of the year, like we were talking about, this restoration progress is happening basically throughout the end of December at Winchester for at least this phase one. It's going to be a couple different phases, so you're not going to see everything happen at once, but you are going to see changes, every couple of years. So documenting that is going to be a lot of fun to do throughout the rest of the year. I've got some work with Mass Golf for the Massachusetts Golfer next issue, and be on the lookout for that. That's something that we're keeping private until it comes out, but I think it's going to hit on some of the topics that we talked about today. So that'll be really cool to see. And then we have the LPGA FM Global later this month, so I'll be out there shooting that. Excited to get a chance to see just those ladies compete. It's such a high level, and that's another great viewing experience. And then to reach me, I think what's best is either my email or Instagram, and you can find all that information on my Instagram page. I usually just send people there, but it's just MEH_shots_mesh shots. It's a play on words, but it's also my initials, so there's some reasoning behind it. So it's fun when people get a kick out of the joke. But that's where to find me, and feel free to reach out. Happy to talk. Anything, golf, life. Yeah, it's cool to see people reach out with interest in the game of golf like myself, and so I'm happy to talk.
Excellent. Great stuff, Matt. And yeah, we'll certainly have all your links in the description of this video as well. So yeah, again, if anyone's looking for high quality photography for your golf course, Matt's certainly one to reach out to. So, well, Matt, again, from one Matt to another, I certainly can't thank you enough for your time today. It's just been an awesome conversation, understanding the ins and outs of golf course and golf competition photography with you. And yeah, certainly looking forward to seeing your work as it continues to progress and in various publications. And next time we're out at a common competition, I'll of course be sure to say hello. So it's just been a pleasure to talk with you today. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate the time. Looking forward to seeing you out there again.
Very good. All right, Matt. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Yeah, see ya. Thanks.